Yeah, I really like the way you start the introduction of the main book, I think it is. You say, there's a famous Chinese saying, know yourself, know your enemy, 100 fights, 100 victories. So what does that mean exactly? What does it mean in terms of your book? It's kind of, part of it is obvious, part of it isn't.
It is it's a military phrase. I think Mao Zedong eventually put it in that form, but it goes back 2,000 years to the works of a General Sun Tzu. For me, it means unless you know yourself, you're going to make wrong decisions. Doesn't matter what those decisions are. The decisions you make need to be in harmony with yourself. They may be stupid to other people, but they're going to make different decisions. Everybody makes different decisions. For me, writing this book, I had to recognize that most people did not agree with me in terms of my conclusions for myself. My conclusions for myself are, I will go the alternative route. I know that. I feel it's much more persuasive. But you will very likely take a very different route. You'll say, well, I will try this and I'll try that. You'll produce your own package of therapies, because those will feel right for you.
So know yourself is about it's almost a dual process insofar. One way, it's about knowing what you feel is right for you, and it's also about having information about yourself, whether it be your physical makeup or genetics, your general health, whatever. You've got that information, you can then make an informed decision.
That's right? What I think. I had an email from someone who had read the book, and she said, I've been reading your book, and thank you very much, and that was 3 months ago, and I've been doing these things, and it seems to me that I should just make my own decisions. I said, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm not in a position to make decisions for you, but for me, you see, I'm not a guru. What I am is a tour guide. My book is
a resource guide.
A resource guide, even strong. Yes, it's a tour guide. I'm a tour guide. I'm saying this is what's available. I'm the tour guide to the strange country of cancer.
Yeah.
And I talk about it from my own perspective. Yes, it's a personal tour guide. Yes, not an objective tour guide.
And one thing again I didn't know, I found very interesting, was that cancer is actually a name for 2,000 different diseases.
I think that's, shall we say, taking the most extreme form of definition from the point of view of mainstream medicine. For the mainstream oncologist, each cancer is biochemically distinct. It has a different behavior, it has a different genetics, and it will behave differently to different treatments. Therefore, it makes sense to talk about them as different diseases.
Okay.
But all these diseases share one set of behaviors, which is that they replicate themselves and double in size frequently and grow and don't die. That's the key. And they spread to other parts of the body. So these, I think you can either think of them as 2,000 or more diseases, separate diseases, each with their own specific problems, or you can say they're one disease in different parts of the body, and they manifest differently in different parts of the body, but it's one disease. So, and that's an important distinction. Are shall we say, the manifestations of cancer, the tumours, are they the disease, or are they symptoms of the disease? I think that's an important question. Right. And it's a question that the mainstream doctors do not attempt to answer, because they're not looking at causes. And I would say even on the alternative side, only some of the alternative therapists are seeing it in those terms. But it's a real question.
And what did you find out are the main causes of cancer?
Well, that's a tricky question. For me, I think you can talk about if there's a whole chain of cause and effect, which one is the real cause? I certainly think that chemicals are implicated.
So when you say chemicals, what do you mean?
Toxic. I mean toxic chemicals. You know, we have enormous numbers of amounts of chemical in the environment. You know, petroleum, chemicals, and so on. But I think even more fundamental to those kind of mid-level causes is the food we eat. There was a New Zealand farmer who got cancer, was diagnosed with a potentially terminal cancer shortly after the war. He attributed it to the chemicals that he was putting on his land for growing, and to test that hypothesis, he had animals that were also suffering cancers. He put them onto pastures that didn't have the chemicals, and he gave them mineral salts, and the animals cured themselves. And so he took mineral salts, and he cured himself. And he lived to 100. He only died in the last couple of years. And he was aged 100, I think, when he died. He was free of heart disease, he was free of arthritis, and he was cancer-free as well. So I believe, and it makes sense, if you go back 120, 130 years to the Victorian age, you had the Industrial Revolution in full spelt. You know, you had foul air, diets were really bad, people had no idea what they were doing, they smoked tobacco like nobody's business, and yet cancer rates were about 1 to 2%. So,
but they didn't live so long, though.
There is an argument over that. If you take the people who live to the age of 40, that means you're eliminating from the statistics women who died in childbirth and children who died, you know, when they're very young. If you take those out of the statistics, actually, people lived, I would say, 90% as long as they do now. I don't think that's the answer.
Is that right?
Yes. You go to a village graveyard, just look at the age of people. I went to Brighton Cemetery, and I look at some of the modern gravestones, and people are dying at 59, 62. I look at some of the village headstones, you know, people who died 80, 90 years ago, 78, 84. So I don't think that that argument is good.
Right. Yeah. So when someone is diagnosed with cancer, you know, we all know, not necessarily from personal experience, we all know people that have been in that situation. It's a great shock. So what is the starting point? I guess you would advise getting your book, then they read through your book, and then, you know, for some people it's a lot of information to take on. Do they not need some professional help as well? This is a dangerous area. The law says that only doctors can, you know, suggest treatments, and I think that's simply what we have to deal with. If we look at the books, the first book that I wrote was the Cancer: The Complete Recovery Guide. Yes. A big book. It contains all the critical discussion, and it basically all the information that I have at hand is in that book. Or if it's new, it goes onto my website at fightingcancer.com. Yes. Right. But I realize that this is just too much information, as you say. It's just simply too much, because once people hear that they have cancer, they become blinkered. I mean, there's no question. Well, they must get a panic to start with. Panic, stressed, and because they have not prepared themselves. Yeah. My first title, the title I really wanted for my book was "Read this book before you get cancer." You know, yeah, that's not in our kind of. It's not in our culture. We simply people don't do that. Yeah. So that's why I felt I needed to write a shorter book, which is called Cancer Recovery Guide: 15 Alternative and Complementary Strategies for Restoring